Hi, this is the instructional video of how to complete assignment number 3. In this assignment, we are practicing how to read product catalogs and then how to fill out our food cost sheets. So we are going to use our product catalog, which I provided in class, but there is a copy on Canvas. So you can find that in week three's module. Every attachment that you need for this project is here. I also emailed the food cost forms to you because, again, there's always some kind of downloading error from Canvas. So with spreadsheets, it's always best to go through our emails. So go back to the assignments. We are going to use that product catalog and the recipe provided to find all of our necessary ingredients. There's going to be some choices that you get to make, either comparing prices or selecting between a couple different ingredients. So please make those choices. And then you're going to take all of that information from the product catalog to help you fill out our food cost form. And we're going to go over that when we get into our spreadsheet. From there, the spreadsheet does have a 30% food cost plugged in for you. So it's going to give you a preliminary selling price, and you guys now get to make your own judgment call of whether or not you want to raise the price or lower the price. And you're going to set that price to a half or whole dollar. No loose change prices, meaning nothing other than 50 cents or double zero. And that is purely for aesthetics on a menu. We loose change prices just seem a little messy to me. I think that's a personal preference, but very common on the industry to just see half or completely flat numbers. So from there, download that spreadsheet as a PDF file because it will just save that first tab, and I'll show you why in a second, and then submit it here on Canvas. Here are some helpful conversions for you because we do have these ingredients by volume measure in our recipe. So this is going to be a conversion to help you figure out the price per ounce. So we did have one example on our PowerPoint. We did another one in class doing a conversion like this. So hopefully you guys are ready to do it on your own. So these are all the resources available to you, including me, if you need any extra help. So first things first, you guys are going to be costing out this chicken stir fry recipe. Super easy, really, really small recipe. Every ingredient you can find on the product catalog. We did do one in class to include chicken broth. That's the only thing that we did not have immediately available, but we did it together. And when you get to your product catalog, this is it takes a minute to get used to reading these. So I'm going to go through each of the columns and what they mean, and then hopefully it makes a little bit more sense. I froze this row up here, so this is just a little spreadsheet knowledge. If you want to keep a row or a column frozen, meaning when you scroll, that row stays in place. So for example, if I unfreeze it, see how I lose that title column or title row up top. So you can go to view, freeze, and it's usually this up to row, or if you're doing the column, that will freeze it for you, and then it will stay in place, which makes reading this catalog a whole lot easier. Okay, so we will focus on this ingredient here because this is an example I did in class. So the pack column is referring to multiples of a unit. So if you see a number that is greater than 1, you can assume that you're purchasing more than one item for that price. So for example, this is a case of 12 something. I don't know what yet. So the next line is our size. This is the weight or the volume or the count of the item being sold. So we are now looking at a case of 12 of these 49-ounce units. The next line is a little redundant because the unit is often already stated in our size column, but sometimes it does have a defining characteristic. So for example, this is a can. So now I know I'm purchasing 12 49-ounce cans. But as you can see on most of these items below, the units of measure are matching. Ingredient, this column is alphabetized. Sometimes it's an item isn't going to be in the place that you think it should be in. You could always do hit Control F on your keyboard, and then you could type anything into here. So for example, I know at first we couldn't find scallions because it's actually listed as onion green iceless. Iceless just means it comes in a box, but it's not packed with ice because sometimes produce is sold with ice on it. So if you simply cannot find an ingredient by alphabet or trying to generalize it in any way that you can, because you guys are new to reading these and you don't know where to look, I just hit Control F, and that brought up this little search tab. So there's another little helpful spreadsheet hint. Okay, so ingredient column, so otherwise self-explanatory. Category, what kind of item is it? Is it canned? Is it frozen? Produce, meats, dairy, all that good stuff. Not important for this project, but this one is our price. So this is the amount you're paying for the amount you're buying. So this up here are almonds, natural sliced. So this is where you'll usually find more defining characteristics of the product. We are purchasing 3 2-pound bags, and that is a canned and dry good at $72.19. So altogether, I am paying for 6 pounds because there's 3 2-pound bags. So 3 times 2 is 6. I'm paying $72.19 for 6 pounds of sliced almonds. That is how you read a product catalog. They don't have too many ingredients to find, but when you do find them, you're going to come to your cost sheet. I already have some of it filled out for us. So recipe name, you do get to choose between some of the ingredients. I'll point that out real fast. So it does say green or red bell peppers and walnuts or peanuts. Please make a choice here. There are price differences. You can't just list the ingredients like that verbatim because you can't buy those ingredients for the same prices as each other. So please make a choice there. And then for the nuts specifically, please clarify that in the recipe title when you go to type in your title here. Recipe yield, the recipe card, did give us that information. It gave us our yield, aka portions, and then also the portion size. So we need both of these pieces of information to use in our cost sheet. Recipe yield is at 12. This cell can only hold a numerical value, so it can only hold a number. So for example, if you wrote each, you will start to see these error codes down here because that cell, the number in this cell is used in a formula down here. So as soon as I fixed it, all those zeros popped back up. Portion size, you can write anything here. This is not factored into any formula. And then date, I went ahead and wrote today's date. This is important if you are offering the same menu item consistently or year after year, season after season, and you just want to track the prices and ensure that you're charging enough money for the entree you're continually serving. So, chicken broth we are going to do together because that's what I did in class. So again, I'm going to explain all of these columns to us and just fill them out as we go along. Column A is just for your ingredients. Quantity is a column that can only hold a numerical value again. So make sure that you are filling this out with just numbers, and it can only take numbers in decimal forms too. So for example, on our recipe, we have 1.5 cups of chicken broth. But as soon as I do 1.5 in here, simply because of that fraction, I experience a value error code. So definitely make sure that it's only holding numbers and it's only in decimal form because you're going to have, even with just number or letters too, you're going to have a problem. So quantity column is only a numerical value. Back to 1.5 for us. Unit of measured, what is the size required in the recipe? In our recipe, we are using 1.5 cups, so it's perfect. That's what we have written here. And our yield percentage, you guys will need to adjust this column if your product experiences waste. So obviously chicken broth doesn't, but I know you guys are going to have to do the green onion, aka scallion. You can write either, I will understand both. So as soon as you type a value into the ingredients cell over here, there's going to just pop up with all these other numbers. So one website I recommend is chefsresources.com. And from there, there's a couple different yield percentage charts that are very helpful for costing. So this is a good website in general, but the produce yield chart is going to be most beneficial to you. So for example, bell peppers, red or green, have a 65% yield rate. Onions, again, kind of like in that generalized form, like the product catalog was. Onions, green, there's a 92% yield rate. So I'm going to show you how to adjust that. So you'll actually double click this cell, and this is the only one that you should be changing if you need to. You're going to go in behind that 100, delete it, and then you're just going to match whatever the website told you. You can also Google these things. I'm okay with using AI overview as long as it makes sense. So think about what AI is telling you and if it makes sense. If not, please try to find resources like this. There's a few others. You could just type in chefs um, yield percentage charts or culinary yield charts, and a more reliable source will come up than just AI. Okay, so the most important part of the cost sheet is filling out the unit price column correctly. So this price, whatever you're listing here, is actually based off the unit of measure that you have in column C. So you're consistently matching the price to match this price of the unit of measure here, because in our recipe, we're only using 1.5 cups of broth, but we're purchasing it from a case that has 12 49-ounce cans. So the amount we're using is like very, very small. So we want to make sure that we are attaching the correct price per cup to our chicken broth, because we're using it by the cup. So that's how we have to cost it out. Whatever unit of measure you're using in column C is the unit of measure you are pricing your item out to. So we are going to look at our produce catalog real fast. So, and I'm going to do some of the math over here. So again, I'm going to show you some spreadsheet magic. So this is a mathematical friend. To start any equation, especially simple equations, you always start with an equal sign. So what we're going to do now is isolate the cost of just one can. So I'm going to look at my pack size. We have 12 of these 49-ounce cans. So if you can envision that. So I'm going to always start with my price first, $60.87, and I'm going to divide that by 12 because there's 12 of those cans in a case. So this is my price per can. From there, I'm going to go even further because we know that there are 49 ounces in a can. So I'm going to isolate a single ounce now. So I'm going to take the price per can, $5. I'm going to leave it in that full expression. We're going to round at the very, very end. And now I'm dividing by 49 because I have a price per a single can and I know exactly how many ounces are in that can. I'm looking at this crazy long number. If we were to stop here, I would say we'd round it up to 11 cents. But since we have one more step, let's round at the very end. So again, this is now price per ounce. Okay, last but not least, we know there are 8 ounces in a can. So I'm going to take this cell. So that's also something you can do with a spreadsheet, is select a value that's in a cell. So I just clicked on that cell, it highlighted it for me. My multiplication sign is the asterisk. So that is shift 8. And then I'm going to type in 8 because now we're finding the price per cup. So hopefully you guys got that. If not, watch it again. So we talked about partial pennies. So anytime you have a number after, oops, I can't show you like that, sorry. Anytime you have a number that's after that second decimal in our money expression, because we normally have two spots when we express money, there's even just a 1 or even a 0 1, consider that a partial penny and round up. So you're more or less always rounding at least 1 cent up when you're working with money, just to cover your bases, because those partial pennies, as small as they are, they will add up over time, and you just want to micromanage this. So we are rounding that up to 83 cents as our price per cup. So hopefully that helps. With some spreadsheet knowledge too. So you should never have to pull out a calculator when you're working with a spreadsheet, because the spreadsheet is your calculator. So let's take our 83 cents. We have price per cup, right? Matching units of measure, matching units of measure. 83, right? Yes. Okay, so while I'm here, I'm going to look at price per ounce again. So remember, price per ounce, so it was like 11 cents an ounce. I'm going to show you the difference. So let's say this is what we were doing too. However, we just stopped when we found that price per ounce. So we are costing out a very, very small amount of this case of chicken broth. So this is what not to do. So again, since it's 10 in partial pennies, I'm going to round that up to 11 cents, and let's look at the difference there. So this is the correct amount. We have our price that is per cup because our unit of measure is per cup. What is wrong is here where we have cups used in the recipe, but then we put a price per ounce. Wah wah, not good. So that is a major price difference. Again, we are constantly living in razor thin margins to make money in this industry. So little things like this, easy mistakes to make, can add up in the end. So that was wrong. Don't do it. And now I'm going to explain the rest of the columns. So we just finished with unit price. This is the math you probably have to do on your own. Use that product catalog, use the spreadsheet to your benefit, or a calculator if you're doing it on paper. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but the spreadsheet will do the math for you. Okay, so if you have a 100% yield rate in here, your EP cost should be the same as your unit price because you're able to use 100% of the product, so no variation there. Let me show you what happens when we have a yield percentage. So this is not the correct price. I'm going to put in something absurd so we have more numbers to look at on the bottom. So don't copy this because I'll know. Let's put $35 because we're using so many green onions. Okay, so do you see how unit price is 35 and our EP cost is 38.04? That's because that is accounting for that 8% waste that we experience with green onions. These two columns, columns F and G, are calculated for you, so please don't adjust anything here. Do not be entering your unit price in your EP cost column. If you do and you make that mistake, for example, oh no, I deleted the formula, what do I do? Okay, one, you do have your back button you could do, but if something went totally awry and all of a sudden you are noticing cells that should have a formula don't, because there's nothing popping up there, there's nothing popping up when you double click it. Remember that little blue dot in the corner will drag down a formula anywhere you go, and it's back. So moral of that story, please do not change column F or column G formulas. That math is done for you. Okay, now at the bottom, remember our total ingredient cost is adding up all of our ingredients here. So you guys are going to have more to fill out. So in total, let's just look at this hypothetically. You're looking at it costs you $39.29 to make this recipe of chicken stir fry. This is where the recipe yield number comes back in. So let's double check that. So there's that formula there. It's taking this cell G42 dividing by our cell up here. So this is our single plates cost. This is what it costs us as the business to make one plate of chicken stir fry. The Q factor is that small percentage added to every plate. So that's why it's being attached to the single portion cost and not just a 1% to the total of the ingredient cost. It's to every single plate because customers are also helping us pay for um, the complimentary items or the items that are included on tables or self-serve, things like that, our to-go boxes. So we have in here a 5% Q factor because industry standard is anywhere from 1 to 10%. So I put right down the middle, 5. So every chicken stir fry plate gets an extra 16 cents added on to it, which brings us to a total of $3.44 to charge to the customer with a 30% food cost attached to it. So that is what is shown here, our preliminary selling price of $11.46. So this is our spreadsheet telling us charge your food at this amount to be at that 30% food cost. So now this is where you guys get to make your judgment call. We are very close to that $half. If you feel like a 6-ounce portion of chicken stir fry is worth what this states, please just either round to that $half or one of the full dollars. So if you want to round all the way down to 11, that is your choice. And if you want to round all the way up to 12, also your choice. If you feel like this is too low, this is your option to price it accordingly, but please within reason. This is a time to ask yourself as a consumer, because that's what you've been your entire life, is this reasonable? Would you pay for this? Because part of being successful and pricing menus out accordingly is making sure that we are understanding our clientele and what they are willing to pay. So let's round this up to 12 just to make it easy. And then our actual food costs is what that set menu price put us at. So because I rounded up, that made my food costs go lower than what it was originally intended at. So if we round it down, we should see something more than 30%. So again, that is your choice, but choose wisely. Either way, unless it's like completely unreasonable, you will get full credit. But I'm just curious to see what your guys' thought process are with this. So that is what it looks like to have a completed cost sheet. Obviously, you're going to have more ingredients. And if you wanted to see some examples, I do have 2 attached. This one is for a fish and chips recipe that has a secondary cost sheet. So that is displaying how to plug in that amount here. That is not necessary for your guys' project this week, but if you're interested in looking at it, go ahead. So when you're ready to download this, you'll go to File, Download. If you save this as a PDF, it's just going to save this one chicken stir fry tab, versus if you download as an Excel document, it's going to download all 3. Either way, it doesn't matter, but that's just another useful spreadsheet information that you guys might use later on. So I hope I covered everything. Like I said, everything is in Canvas, how to do the assignment, that product catalog, the recipe, the food cost form, but use the one in the email. And don't forget about those conversions you're going to need for those volume measurements that you guys have. So there's the cornstarch, teaspoon, and teaspoon, and you're going to convert those into ounces. So on that assignment page, this will come into handy because we buy cornstarch probably by the ounce. We definitely buy our spices by the ounce. We don't buy them by the cup or tablespoon. So use those conversions, use your culinary unit of measure knowledge to do that. And I think that's it, guys. So I hope this helped. If not, email me and I will try to help you as best as I can. Alrighty, good luck.